It's doing some pretty odd things, but we'll go with this. Excellent. Okay, we'll give it a couple of minutes. Thank you for being efficient and getting in here, and for being my guinea pigs. So we'll wait a little while for a few others to catch up with us. But well done for choosing to come and sample the BTEC IT. Best course in sixth form, I would say that. My machine is still doing some very odd things, but okay. So at least you can see the slide, and we'll give it a few more minutes for people to join us. Okay. I'm going to turn the mic off a minute because everybody's on the wander. If I forget to put it on, can somebody just remind me in the chat? Okay, we've got quite a lot of background noise happening. Okay, folks, things are settling down a little better, so I put the mic back on. Can somebody put in the chat whether they can hear me okay? Because my laptop's a little bit twitchy. Great stuff. Well done. Okay, just a few more minutes just to make sure that anybody who's struggling to find us gets to join us. Okay. What we're going to do for the next 45 minutes is I'm going to tell you a little bit about the course and how it's taught. I'm really pleased that you've turned up to the session. My aim is to make sure that you understand what the course is about, so that I hope you pick it, but I hope you pick it because it's the right course for you, not because you don't know about it. So that's the aim for today. Okay, so this is the BTEC Information Technology course. So we're going to work through a couple of slides. We'll start in a minute. So that I'm hoping that by the end of it, you'll have a clear idea of what you're to do. The really good news is there is a transition task. You will find by the end of the day, lots of people will be talking to you about transition tasks. So there's some work that we would like you to do to prepare for the course. And obviously you'll be doing that over the summer when you would really like to get away and not think about school, but we want to try and make sure that your learning habits carry on, so you're not starting from the very beginning. Okay, so according to my machine, it's now 9:15. So welcome to BTEC Information Technology. It's been clear this year that we have been more reliant on IT than ever. I'm sure it was a bit of a shock for you in the same way as it was for us, that all of a sudden we were at home with the tech that we had available to us, and suddenly we needed to make it do things that we hadn't really considered before. The issue of working from home, whether it's working from the point of view of studying from home, or whether maybe some of your parents and guardians have had to do their job, or at least part of their job, from home. It's come as a bit of a shock to people, and it's been a real challenge for many sectors of society, because they're just not used to having to think about the tech. It's there, it works, somebody else makes it work, or we kind of settle with what we're comfortable with, don't really stretch the tech to anything like its capabilities. So we've had to work from home, and certainly from my point of view, that's involved installing software. Then I had problems, I had to go out and buy a new device, or we needed completely setting up. We learnt new ways to collaborate online, and all the while we had to make sure that our devices were safe, so that we protected both our own devices and those that we were connecting with. So when it comes to IT skills, I do not see a way forward in our modern society where, in the world of work or study, you don't need these skills. So it's a really good plug for the course. I hope that all of our previous students had no bother with being online. So I think it's an important study in all sorts of areas, work and apprenticeships. It really sits at the juncture of all of those possible ways forward. Now, BTEC is a vocational course. Okay, so it's a BTEC IT. What does a vocational course mean? Well, to start with, it's graded slightly differently to the straight A levels, which are graded A star to E. The vocational courses are pass, merit, distinction, distinction star. Okay, so there's nothing in between. So it's graded differently to show that it's a vocational course. So what does this vocation mean? Vocational courses are set in the context of the world of work. Personally, I think that that's possibly the hardest aspect to get your head around when you're a student in a school environment. The exam questions, the coursework, they're all set in a business context, and we work very hard to help you understand the different business contexts, because I think personally that's the hardest part of the exam, trying to figure out what on earth you understand about the tech, but trying to figure out what is relevant to that business. So we do lots and lots of preparation about how it applies in a business context. It focuses big time on thinking skills. It's about skills with software, but not just can you press these buttons, but do you know which tools to use to do the job, which is the best way through. So it's about thinking, it's about solving problems in a business context. Those of you who have done the OCR National beforehand, I mean, that's part way towards it. It's building on that, but we look at a wider range of business contexts, but we look in a little bit more depth at each. Okay, so it's about thinking skills. It's graded differently from the straight A level, because obviously it needs to indicate this is a vocational course, but it's very much skill based as well, and employers really like it. Universities accept it to go on to further study. I just have Mr. Greenhouse check that everything's all right. I have, haven't I? I'm recording it. Okay, I think I'm having trouble with my tech. Told you I had a bother. I am recording this meeting, apparently. Can you all tell me that, have you had the recording message up? Can somebody put in the chat? Right, so Hayley can see it. Okay, that's good. Started up my own mind here. Right, okay. So, okay, now the course. So it's the equivalent to 1A level. So if you are going on to university or any other form of study, it counts as an A level, as a straight A level. Okay, so it's judged in exactly the same way. It comprises of 4 units. Now, those of you who did the CNAT, it would have been, CNAT was 50-50. CNAT IT was 50% exam and 50% coursework. I know this year things went a bit pear-shaped and there were different ways of getting the different routes to getting the qualification, but it was intended to be a 50-50. If you're coming in through the iMedia, you will understand that there were 3 different units you would have had to do, and then 1 exam. If you've come in without IT skills, IT qualifications at year 11, that doesn't matter. We assume, to be honest, that you're going to forget everything over the summer and we're going to start from scratch. But there are 4 units, 4 things you've got to do, and you need to pass them all, or at least nearly pass them all. The practical units you must pass or you can't get a qualification. There is some leeway on the exam. You can have 1 nearly pass and they will let you have the qualification. I've got to be quite upfront about this. It's a lot of work to get it done, but it's A-level. You are expected to do lots and lots of work at A-level. What is a little different from the likes of the CNAT is the CNAT course you were only allowed to work on in class under direct teacher supervision. This time you are permitted and expected to do coursework outside in your own time. Okay, so that's part of the homework, the home learning that you will be doing will be your actual coursework. And it's the usual case of the more you put in, the better the grade you get out. One thing I would warn people is that if you are enrolling in a BTEC course, if you want to have a distinction or a distinction star at the end of year 13, you need to be working for that grade from the very beginning, because the units you do in year 12 count for your final grade. Okay, so there are 4 units. This isn't an easy course because there are no easy A-levels. Is it worse than any other? No, not really. But there is learning, there's work to be done. Okay, so it is, I'll talk to you about the skills you need in a minute to actually survive the course. You get a lot out of this course, but you need to put quite a bit in as well. Okay, so what have you got to learn? There are 4 units. One is the, unit 1 is the exam, information technology systems, and the good news is we do that in year 13. Unit 2 is also an exam, but that's a practical exam on databases. Unit 3 is the first piece of coursework you will do with us. You will do that in year 12. That is using social media in business. And the first 1, 2, and 3 are mandatory units. So it doesn't matter where you do this course, those 3 will have to be done. The last unit is an optional unit, and there are a range of optional units that can be chosen, but we have elected to do the data modelling, and that's the spreadsheets. And that's based on our experience that businesses rely big time on spreadsheets. And if you want to get on in a business environment, if you've got really good spreadsheet skills, it's a quick way to get in promotion. So we focus on the spreadsheet skills. Whether your intention is to go into business for yourself or to go to work for someone else, it doesn't matter. Spreadsheets are the key for business. So that's why we've chosen to do that one as a mandatory unit. Okay, so in year 12, you do 2 units, and the 2 we work through, it's the social media, which is the coursework, and the unit 2, which is the database exam. Now, again, other establishments doing these courses may well do them in a different order. The reason we pick unit 2 and unit 3 is if something changes by the end of year 12 and you decide you don't want to stay on for year 13, unit 2 and unit 3 get you the equivalent of an AS grade. So you can claim a certificate at AS level at the end of year 12. Now, most of our students go on and stay with us right through to year 13. But I mean, each time there are 1 or 2 that thinks, you know what, I've given it a good shot, but this really isn't for me. School in general, rather than the course. So they decide that they want to leave at the end of year 12. So at least on this course, you do get a qualification. If there are organisations that do other units first and people decide to leave at the end of year 12, they don't have they don't have anything. Okay, so we've chosen to do it that way to give people the option. So there's an external practical exam, and then there's the coursework unit. In year 13, we go on and we do the really big unit, which is an external exam, and that's a 2-hour paper. And then there's a smaller unit, which is spreadsheets. Okay. Any questions at the minute? Pop them in the chat, so I know I'm not talking to myself. Any questions about those? Definitely. Okay, we're all looking good. Okay, I mean, if you've got any questions, you can put them in the chat as we go through anyway, and I'll try and get to them. Okay, right. Okay, we're on slide 5. We're doing okay. So let's have a little look at each of these units in turn. I'm just going to go through them in order. The biggest exam is Unit 1, and that is about the theory about computers. It's about hardware. It's about how they work. Not to a huge technical level, but you need to be aware of the limitations of different devices. The idea is that in the exam, you get given different business contexts, and you may have to choose the hardware for them, or the software, or how they're going to be networked and connected up. So Unit 1 focuses quite a lot on networking. It's not the practical skills, you don't have to build a network, but understanding the different ways of connecting devices and different choices. So that's where we're at on that one. I take the heavy lifting on that. I teach most of that. Mrs. Potton joins me at the end part. We have been running that in January before now, but the last 2 years we have shifted that to the summer. So that as things stand, it is likely that that will be the last unit that you complete. We'll see how we get on. We hope we won't have an interrupted year next year in terms of class learning. But it's 2 hours, it's 90 marks, and it counts for more than a unit's worth. At Shenley, we have a really good track record for getting good grades on Unit 1. Okay, so we do well on the theory. It's a lot of work in year 13, but you are well prepared for it. Okay, so that's the Unit 1. I think that's probably my favourite unit, I've got to be honest. Unit 2 is also my unit, and that's the database exam. That's the one that you will be doing in May or June next year. Now, I have to say that I start off and assume that no one has used databases at all. Can I ask in the chat, is there anyone here who hasn't done any work on databases since Key Stage 3? Okay, so this is Microsoft Access. If you're brave enough to put in the chat that you haven't done it, I assume that nobody has done it. Now, I know that's not strictly true because some of you have been in the SENA IT course, but I go back to the beginning. We start at the beginning, build it up slowly. We go to some really clever skill building activities. You are expected to do some pretty sophisticated things with databases, but we take you on a journey and you get there. Okay, again, we have a good track record of getting students good grades through this exam. The way it's assessed, there are two, an afternoon and a morning. So it's 5 hours of exam, and you get the first part of the exam, which is 3 hours, which you do in an afternoon. And you have to build the database, an empty database. They give you some data to put in. Then you submit that electronically. And the next day you come back and we give you a database with data, and you've got to do some of the other things with it. Okay, so it's 5 hours, so it's not too painful. It's worth 50% of the year 12 grade. So it's 25% overall of your grade. We do lots and lots of practice. So as much as that's the heavy duty skill unit, you will be adequately prepared at least. I'm hoping you'll be very well prepared for that one. As I say, we do well on that. Any questions about the databases or the theory exam, Unit 1? So Unit 2 is in year 12, Unit 1, year 13. Okay. Right, the fun stuff. Most students like Unit 3. Unit 3 is the first coursework unit you will be doing. You'll do that in year 12. And Mrs. Potton takes the lead on this unit. So This one involves figuring out how social media is used by business. Now, I'm assuming that you were all black belts in social media. That may be an incorrect assumption. I don't do social media very much at all, I have to say. But social media drives our economy at the moment. Although it was not intended to be used in that way, that's not its initial design, businesses have very quickly tapped into the whole value of it. So you are going to look at how it's used for business, and you end up planning and delivering a social media campaign. Okay, so that's year 12. That's 50% of year 12, so 25% of your overall grade. Unit 5, data modeling. Well, that one is a small spreadsheet unit that you do in year 13. Okay, and again, you're given a task and you work through it and make a spreadsheet and model with it, change the different values, because it's about the analysis rather than just building the spreadsheet. So that's a good one for database skills. And as I've said already, employees really like that one. Okay, so Mrs. Potton takes unit 3, social media. In year 12, I take unit 2, databases. And then in year 13, Mrs. Potton does the data modeling, the spreadsheets, while I'm doing the unit 1, information systems. And when the spreadsheet model is completed, then Mrs. Potton joins me on delivering the theory. So that's the way it's organised at the moment. I know things might change, but that's the plan. I frequently get asked, do you need a textbook? Now, there are some textbooks available. We don't supply them. So there are a couple of options. There's one, this one that's on the details here, that costs about £30 new, cheaper if you get the electronic copy. That covers all the units, and although it's got the skill building for databases, which is unit 2, it was a very early draft and they've changed the assessments. The assessment part of that is in unit 2 is not correct, but all the skills are perfectly fine. So there's that as an option. If it's just for the theory, because to be quite honest, we give so many notes. If you take adequate notes, I don't really see that you need the green textbook. This one I do recommend people get, because this is theory for the year 13. It's just for the year 13 written exam. And that comes in at the last prices was £16 for that. That's if you get them new. You can get them secondhand. And obviously they're cheaper then. Okay, so that's the information technology unit 1 only. This one, this is a revision guide for unit 1 and unit 2, but again, the unit 2 isn't really, the skills are right, the way the assessment's done, because every year they seem to change the assessments, and had 2 big changes 2 years ago. So those are the 3 textbooks that are available. You will be given a full set of notes. It is your choice whether you get a textbook. My aim is to make sure you don't actually really need one. In terms of what skills you need, well, this one's a bit different. You need to have decent time management skills, because that's the biggest problem. We need people to manage their time, and if you get a problem, you need to come and speak to us so we can try and help you. We do exercises, we help you plan. We've got a good track record with people on this course, but we can't help you if we don't know you've got a problem. Obviously, you've got to manage your own resources, whether that's software, whether that's your files, whether that's your notes. But really, we like the people who whinge a bit. You need to be able to critically review. There's always a way to make your work better. And for the higher grades, you need to be able to identify what you should have or could have improved. You don't necessarily have to make the improvements, but you need to be able to identify that. But other than that, and organisation skills, all your software skills, we teach you. Okay. I hope you're still awake at this. I feel I'm talking too much. Right. Okay. What do you think this slide is about? Can you type in the chat so I know you're still there? Can you type in the chat what you think the slide is about? A bit like a dingbat. Any ideas? Or have you all gone shy? Okay. Well, Hayley, you're not getting on the right track. It's about deadlines. Okay. It's a bit gruesome. Deadlines. Okay. Biggest issue on this course. We set you coursework and we tell BTEC, because we've got to, when the coursework's got to be due in. If you don't make the deadline, you don't have a resubmission opportunity, you fail the unit, which means you may not be able to get the qualification depending which unit it is. So deadlines and time management are important. Okay, so that's the biggest warning I can give you. This one, you need to make sure you're handing in by the deadline. So you've had the warning, make sure, and we do chivvy, but it's your responsibility to get the work in. So social media and business. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. I'm hoping you've got a piece of paper and a pen available or something you can doodle with. I have got on the screen some social media icons. I don't need you to put them in the chat for a minute. What I want you to do is to see if you can identify them and keep a count of how many you know. Okay, so keep a count of how many you know. And I give you a minute. Okay. I'm going to give you the answer, and what I want you to do is I want you to count how many you got correct, and then I'm going to ask for some feedback in the chat. Okay. So if you got more than, is that 13? Yeah, more than 13. No, that won't work because more than 3. I got no idea why that says 13. I suppose it's 16 there. So, okay, we'll stick with the 13. If you got more than 13, can you put your hand up in the chat? You should see on your floating toolbar, there's a little hands icon. If you got more than 13, if you can give me a wave, excellent. Okay, now then, I'm hoping that on my hands up, I've only got raise a hand. So let's see. If you got more than, so keep your hand up if you got more than 13. Can you also put your hand up if you got more than 10? Great stuff. Thank you. Hands down. Now, when we look at social media, we have a little look at what it's there for and how it works. Now, I can't do polls because my version doesn't do polls anymore. So have a little look at the screen. How many social media sites do you use regularly? None. You're going to put an A in. 1 to 2, B. 3 to 5, C. More than 6. Can you put D in? I don't need to know what they are. I just need to know numbers. So how many do you use regularly? Can you pop them in there? Okay. Well done. I got some savvy social media users here. Okay. Great stuff. Oh, you're all going to like this unit. So let's have a little look. Next slide. Woohoo. So when you're talking about social media, do you use it only for personal use? Do you use it for business use? And I know you're not running a business, but for communicating with businesses. Or do you use it for both? A, B, or C? Pop them in the chat, please. While you're doing that, I'll tell you a story. A student of mine went to Hamleys in London, and Mum had bought a toy for younger sibling. And the toy didn't work when they got it home because they weren't given enough information about it. So Mum emailed and they said, well, just tough. The toy is functioning. It just doesn't work in your home environment for whatever reason. Nothing we can do about it. Mum was clearly disappointed. The student, who was a Year 12 student at the time, contacted the company through social media, expressed her disappointment, And because that business was contacted through social media and they were afraid that a customer was going to be able to communicate on social media and spread the word, all of a sudden they had a refund, full refund. There's power in social media. Okay, it's a very powerful tool and businesses are afraid of criticism on it. So, next question. How many times do you think you've been contacted by a business via social media in the last 7 days? Whether that's adverts for pizzas or goodness knows what, okay? Businesses on your social media, how many times in the last 7 days? If somebody's brave enough to put some numbers in the chat, that would be helpful. The businesses need to harness the power of social media, and that's what you're going to do. You're going to move from personal users into really savvy business users of social media. So you can advise. My friend's got a business of her own. She pays a fortune for somebody to manage her social media. Oh gosh, we're getting through this. Time is moving on, so I've only got a few minutes left. Let's flick through some of these. So in terms of social media and accessing it, we need to know how people are accessing it, because actually we need to make sure that we're designing it for particular platforms. So the social media is a really nice unit. That's the exam unit. We learn about the equipment so we know how it all hangs together. Okay. Because if you're actually picking social media for different devices, you've got to know the limitations of the devices and the power of the devices so that you can capitalize on them. So unit 1 looks at the different devices and how they connect together. My aim is to make you the person that when somebody in your family or your friendship group says, I need a new computer, what do I need? I don't know enough about it, will you help me? You are in a position to give them the help, to make appropriate recommendations for them. Okay, that gets you lots of good Christmas presents, but it means that you're savvy enough to understand what the equipment can deliver, and I also know the questions to ask to figure out which one is best, because they all work well, but they work differently. So being able to choose which one is appropriate for what, that's the skill in it. And clearly these devices all need to be connected up, and there are different ways of actually connecting them and sharing information, and you need to be able to give the warnings for security. You need to be able to choose appropriate ways to connect and software for them to run. So that's what unit 1 is all about. That's the written one. The other side of it is there's a bit of legal and ethical in there, because you need to be aware of any legislation when you're planning campaigns for social media, when you're storing data in the database, when you're setting up a network. Okay, so there's certain legal requirements that apply to IT, and you need to be aware of them. Some of which, again, if you did the OCR CNA IT, you've covered lots of them. We just take it on a little bit further. Right. The reason databases are there as an essential component is every social media site, every e-commerce site stores data about their customers, their members, any orders, any interactions. They're all stored in a database. And as much as there are lots and lots of jobs in terms of social media, as I said, my friend, she pays someone to manage her social media. She pays quite a lot of money for that. So there are jobs in social media. Lots of organisations have their own employees. They have dedicated teams that they pay to maintain their social media. Others farm it out. But databases, for the general public, they seem a little bit afraid of databases. And again, there are lots and lots of jobs in IT that relate to databases, setting them up, managing them, and there are programming jobs associated with that as well. So we look at databases, that's my unit, because the whole point of, if you're clever how you set it up, it makes the sorting, the searching, and the presenting the information so much easier. So it's about intelligent choices. We're all used to filling forms in online. all of those forms, whatever we put in, the data that we put in is stored in a database. It drives our economy. So we learn how to plan a database, to create it, to test it, and to make some really fancy data entry forms. We do some simple databases, we do some simple queries, we do some calculation queries. Again, you will have covered these on the CNAT, even if it's just a quick flavour of it. But we also do some pretty sophisticated forms, which is on the second part of the database assessment. Okay. I'm going to come back to some of these slides in a minute, but what I want to make sure that I talk to you about is the summer task. I said at the start, we're going to set a transition task so that we keep your brains functioning, so that you have some idea of the topics before you come in, so that you are able to jump into the subject quickly. You will find today that all of your sessions will be setting what are called transition tasks, and they're all supposed to be handed in on the 24th of September. So they're all coming in on the same day. That means you need to manage your time. A couple of things with ours, because I want to caution you about some traps I don't want you to fall into. We've split it into two. One is some research and a report you need to write. The other one is an online course. I'm going to deal with the online course first. This one deals with legislation, particularly the Data Protection Act, because that underpins all sorts of things. It underpins the database. It underpins the information exam, so the Unit 1 exam. In terms of social media, you've got to be careful what you're doing and what information you're asking people for. So the legislation gives you a context. So it's data protection, and if you have done the CNAT IT course, you'll have come across this. It's an online course. There are some resources that they give you some information and they ask you to do some quizzes at different points through, and there's a final quiz. What we would like you to do is to work through the resources. There is a document. I've got a printed copy of the document. That's no help to you, but the document is available on the Shenley Brook End website. I'll show you where that is in a couple of minutes. So there's a document there with some resources. You need to work through it. It gives you a hyperlink so that you can do the course. We would like you, please, to take a print screen, or you can take a photograph on your phone of the screen, or a screen grab if you're doing it on your phone. We would like that put into a Word document, because we would like to see your results from the Isaac. It's an Isaac computing test. So from the quizzes, as you go through, please, please, please remember to take screenshots of the results of the quizzes, because otherwise you're going to have to do it all over again. So task 2 is a quiz. That won't take you too long, I hope. And I hope you'll find it interesting, because there's one thing that's for sure. There are lots and lots of different computer systems that are storing information about you. Okay, and they are subject to the same law, so you should find it interesting to find out what rights you have. Task 1 is the bigger one and will take more of your time, being quite realistic. We want to report on social media. Now, not just what's social media all about and what's it used for, but critically, we want you to know how organisations work out whether their social media campaigns are actually effective or not, because none of them are happy accidents. They are planned. They are tweaked. I don't know whether you've noticed, but quite clearly on a Thursday and on a Friday evening, I get messages through about Domino's pizzas giving me special offers or vouchers or whatever it is, because they know that by the end of the week I've had enough. I've been in work. I don't really want to cook. Okay, I'm sure that with all the football on, they've been going into warp drive because they know people will then think, oh, well, we'll have a pizza while we're watching. So they are quite canny in when they place ads on social media. They're not happy accidents, and they need tools to judge how effective those are. And there are lots and lots of them. Now, as a consumer of social media, you tend not to see those tools. So what we are going to ask you to do is to research the tools that are available and to write a report as to how they are used by business to have effective social media campaigns. Now, in the document that you will find up on as the transition tasks, there's help. We're not just going to throw you to the wolves and say, off you go, find it out for yourself. We are going to give you some links. There's information in the Word document that you can find useful. You can, of course, find other resources yourself. What I need to be very, very clear about, and this is the biggie on the course, you are going to find yourselves referring to resources that you find online. You can't submit those as your own work because that wouldn't be fair. It's called plagiarism. It will cost you your grades. So we are here to make sure at the very, very start you get practice about writing in your own words. So this report, you are certainly going to refer to different websites and different things to do. But you need to make sure you tell us what website you used and what you used it for. Okay, so we will follow the links because we're a bit miserable like that. You need to tell us where you got that information from. And you are expected to use a lot of resources. That's fine. What you need to do is to summarize them in your own words, not copy and paste chunks from the internet. And that's important. Now, that when we mark this, because we will be marking these summer tasks, that's what we are looking for particularly, because we have to know that you can write things in your own words. We can't, when you hand the coursework in, it's not like many, if you've done the iMedia, you get feedback on your coursework as you go. CNAT, it's different, because we're more along the CNAT lines. When it gets handed in, we mark it, we grade it. If it isn't to at least a pass, or if it's not a grade we think that reflects your ability, then we can give you one resubmission opportunity, but we can't tell you exactly how to improve it. We can tell you what you've achieved and areas you need to improve, but that's it. If any of that is plagiarized, you've got a big problem, because we cannot submit work that is plagiarized to the exam board. So this business about in your own words, it's what we're looking for in task 1. Okay. One way of doing this, I mean, you can actually copy and paste a chunk in, reference it and say, and then summarize it in your own words underneath. So it's clear what's come from the website, but the part that you are actually describing in your own words, you make it clear that it's your own words, that's what would gain you the marks. Okay, so you could do it that way. If you need to have something pasted in that you could then, it's just in front of you when you want to put it in your own words, but it is essential. Okay, so those 2 tasks. Now, when we're talking about the social media report, on the task it says 2,000 words, and we would be expecting you to put a word count at the bottom. It's easier if you word process it, to be honest, because all word processors have tools that you can put the word count in automatically, because we don't really want you to waste your time sitting there counting, have I got to 2,000 yet? So it's about 2,000 words. Don't go too far over that, please. It's about, can you pick the important information out? Can you express it in 2,000 words in your own words? Okay. So all the information you need and some links, some information, they're in the task. So where do you find the task? Oh, wrong button. Try that one. Okay. The Shenley Brook End website. Okay, if you go on to Shenley Brook End, you find the website. You can search for it online. You should be able to navigate the menus to find sixth form. Okay, there should be a tab for sixth form. And when you go onto the sixth form page, you will see that there is, on a menu there, there's transition tasks. When you click on the transition tasks, this is last year's because it's only going live today, the transition tasks should all appear in a table, and then you can just do a click on that and hyperlink through. Okay, that's the grand plan. You should be able to find that. If you've got a problem finding it, then please just email me. It's not a problem. But you should be able to find the summer tasks for all of the subjects there. Are there any questions because we've got 5 minutes. Are there any questions about the course? Are there any questions about the course work that we have to do, or about the exams? Have I put anybody off? Just give me some honest feedback in the chat. Okay, it's a good course. It's valuable for going to university, for going into the world of work, and for going into apprenticeships. It's skill-based. As with all courses, there'll be bits you like and bits you don't like, but you're going to get that on any A-level course. It's work at home rather than just in school, which is a bit different to some of the courses that you may have done. We do expect you to communicate with us if you've got any issues. When I say there are deadlines, if there are particular circumstances, we can change the deadline for students, provided we are given information and get a request in advance. Okay, but if you don't tell us that you can't meet the deadline until you've not met the deadline, there's nothing we can do because we're bound by BTEC regulations. Okay. Any questions? If you're happy with the information given, you can try and send me a smiley face. If you've got a smiley face, I don't know where my smiley. I've only got a hand now. I can't. I used to have smiley faces on it, but they've all gone. And yeah, I've got a smiley face. Well done. That cheers me up no end. This in terms of what are the subjects that people sort of sitting there thinking, it's so difficult on the screen. See, I'd be going around asking you, what else are you thinking of doing? We get students who do this alongside business and finance. We get students who do this alongside sort of PE options. We get all sorts of students doing this. We get some students who do this alongside with the programming as well. So, you know, this covers all sorts. It's a really powerful tool that we're going to put in your hands that will support you for the next phase, not just the A-level phase, but for what comes after that. Has anybody got any questions, please? Okay, have I put anybody off? If I have, send me a sad face. I'll be very sad if I've put anybody off. Okay. Right, if you get any difficulties finding the transition tasks, then you can either get hold of Mrs. Pride in sixth form, or you can message me. Okay, it's not a problem. Please make sure you meet the deadline of the 24th. If there are any questions, I would recommend that you have a good look at the tasks for not just this subject, but all of the transition tasks that you will be set today, so that if you need any clarification on any of the tasks, you've got some time to do it before school closes for the summer. Okay, because it's a bit of a pity if you leave it all to last minute and then find out you don't know what you're supposed to be doing. But that's just part of being organised. I am going to go back to, if I can, hang on. Not that one. Sorry about this. I was hoping I could just slide back, but my machine is not really playing ball at the minute. Okay, so in terms of what the course is like, that's the main slide. Okay, so year 12 down the left. And just to reiterate, if you do decide you don't want to stay in school at the end of year 12, now most A-levels are just straight 2 years. If you bail part way through, then you get nothing. But this one does give you the AS equivalent qualification if circumstances change and you are not able to carry on to year 13. Okay, so which is why we do that. And that is different if you're looking at doing this course somewhere else. Most places don't do that. Okay, so we try to give you the best opportunities we can. Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you for enduring. I sit there, I feel as though I've just delivered a monologue. I prefer far more interactive lessons than this, but well done for actually managing to connect. Thank you for turning up. if you've got any questions, you can, as I say, pass them through Mrs. Pride or email me direct. I'll be happy to take any questions. I hope I haven't put anybody off. I hope to see you on the BTEC course in September. Can't fly the flag enough for that one. And thank you very much. I will say goodbye. Can I ask you please to leave the session? Enjoy the rest of your day staring at the screen. Thank you for joining me.